go ahead and call the meeting to order with a roll call.
Jared Rickey,
Present.
Nelson Cantrell,
Present.
Brian Crawford,
Present.
Robert Meir,
Present.
Leonard Knapp,
Here.
Eula Simeon,
Here.
Lenore Feeney, here, and Jason Hammond.
Here.
As has become our custom, we'd like to open with a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is the opportunity to address the commission by employees or others on items on the agenda. I understand we've got no requests. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, so we'll move on to the business. First item of business, consideration of the August 8th, 2019 minutes. Do we have any motions?
I move to accept as presented.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The second item under number 6 is consideration of a motion to take from the table consideration of Chapter 14 rule changes as promulgated in General Circular 190 on January 23 of 2018.
I so move that we take the item from the table for consideration of Chapter 14 rule changes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is consideration of a motion to reject the proposed changes to Chapter 14 rules as promulgated in General Circular 190. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'm sorry, I didn't ask for discussion on the last one, but it passed unanimously anyway. Any discussion? Having none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right. What? All right. So we're making a motion to take it off the table as far as I'm trouble.
Yeah, well, this is before you got here. We had proposed rule changes that were promulgated pursuant to Circular 190. Those were tabled at a previous meeting back February of this year. February of 18. It has been tabled ever since then. We need to formally deal with it. It's been sitting on the table, so we've untabled it, and now the motion is to reject the proposed changes to the rules. And so the Chapter 14 will stay as currently written, as opposed to as amended. Okay, since there was a question and discussion, we'll go ahead and take another vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, item number 4 under why don't you make the motion? Commissioner Bryan has informed me that technically we may have to proceed differently, and he's the expert on this, so I'll let
I
him.
think according to Robert's rules, because the motion was passed, I think as a body we have to vote to reconsider the motion first. Then we have to if that passes, then we can once again vote on it and allow discussion before the second vote. Is that? Okay.
So why don't you make the motion to?
So I make the motion that the body reconsider the motion to reject the proposed changes to Chapter 14 rules as promulgated in General Circular 190. This would just allow us to vote on it formally again. So I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So now it is up for reconsideration and subject to any discussion, if any. Is that
Correct. I'll make a motion now to reconsider a motion to reject the proposed changes of Chapter 14 rules as promulgated in General Circular 190.
So an aye would be a rejection of those proposed changes.
That's correct.
Commissioner, do you have, were your questions satisfied already?
All right, so by saying aye, the commission rules stay the same and they're not changed? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
I'll
sorry.
second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now we're procedurally done. That's why he sits next to me, so you can hear.
And just technically, the prevailing side has to bring up the reconsider motion. So we're all on the prevailing side. Anybody could have brought up the reconsideration motion, so.
Yeah, but you're the only one that knew how to do it.
Well.
All right. All right. Then we'll now move to item number 4 under 6 on the agenda. Request from state police. Request from Louisiana State Police for reinstatement of 530.66 hours of sick leave for State Police Sergeant Michael Washington per State Police Commission Rule 11.21.1. And I understand there's a representative here in case we have any questions. Great. Any of the commissioners have any questions?
I just had a question about, and we talked about it earlier before the meeting, why it took so long. You were able to explain to me this is not common knowledge.
Yeah, it was never taught. I've been on 19 years. Oh, okay, I didn't come up.
Introduce yourself.
That's my first time here. I need to sit here or stand?
You can sit.
Okay.
Identify yourself first, please, sir.
My name is Sergeant Michael Washington of Louisiana State Police. And as I was saying, I came on, well, I've been here 19 years. The accident occurred January 17, 2009. And after, I got hit by a drunk driver or impaired driver. And it was like a partial head-on collision. It broke my foot and my ankle. And I was out of work for about 9 months. And so I guess when I came back to work, it was never brought to my attention that about time or anything, or that sick leave could be a portion of it was reimbursed. But I had no clue about anything. But probably years later, years after that, I guess 2016, 2017, a retired trooper brought it to my attention because I think he was vaguely familiar with persons, getting time reimbursed, and he brought it to my attention. I attempted to do it back then, petition, but I didn't understand the process, and he couldn't explain the process. But he knew it was done, and it could be done. So it wasn't until I met Ms. Carolyn Holland, who's sitting here in Human Resources, that she explained in detail about how the procedure works in terms of requesting the rule and requesting the reimbursed time. So.
And I think I know the answer, but just for clarification, because I don't think you mentioned it, were you in the course of your duties at the time
Yes,
of
sir, it was
the
on.
incident?
Yes, sir.
And as I appreciate it, our current rules do not provide a time limit on the request, is that correct?
That's correct.
Any other questions?
As I appreciate it, workman's comp paid for some of it.
Yeah, yes.
From the thing. This is the difference between
Yes, sir.
workers' comp and your actual pay.
Yes, sir.
There.
Any other discussion? All in favor, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Okay, the next matter on the docket is a consideration of motion to consolidate the appeals of Eric Curley, which are docket number 18239 and 18243-S.
I had initially, there are two appeals pending for Mr. Crowley, and the first appeal was initially filed by Lori Falcon, who asked to be removed after the second appeal was filed with a different lawyer representing Mr. Furley. So we had a pre-hearing conference, and his new lawyer, or lawyer in the second appeal, has asked to handle both matters, and he filed a motion to substitute in the initial one. Issues all involve leave and leave taken, and I think it would be better consolidated rather than heard separately.
Does it involve different periods of time?
Somewhat, but I think it's still the same rules that we're looking at. And he even reiterated the claims from the first appeal in the second appeal, not knowing, I guess, that there was a first appeal. So I just think it would be more efficient to have it heard in one hearing.
And the rules allow for that?
Yes.
I would move that we approve the consolidation of the appeals of Eric Curley, docket number 18-239 and 18-243-S.
I'd like to second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is item 7 on the agenda. We do have one request that I'm aware of, an opportunity to address the commission by employees or others on matters not on the agenda. And one request I'm aware of is from Leon Bucky, Mia. Mr. Mia. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are y'all this morning? You missed me?
I had to look twice when I walked in.
I had heart trouble. I was supposed to go get my heart shot back in today, but maybe y'all can do it for me. I'll have to.
The Tigers will take care of it Saturday.
I'll have to turn to Mr. Crawford because basically what I'm asking for is procedure to be followed. As y'all all know, on January the 10th, I filed a formal complaint about some what I believe to be were improper political donations. Based on that, Mr. Hanneman at the February meeting had requested information from the respondents as to why I was inaccurate in my filings. And that was sent to the governor for his resolution, all your responses. Back on April the 23rd, I sent a follow-up letter to the governor after having no response from the commission or the governor. I have a copy of that letter. I also CC'd a copy to the commission, which y'all should have. And on May the 1st, I finally received a response from the governor. It was a canned letter, and it basically said it was from constituent services and just said that we'll send this to the proper staff members. That was in May the 1st. As of today, there's been no response from the governor. I believe in my heart about our Constitution and about rules and policies and procedures, the way things need to be done. People need to be exonerated if necessary, or action taken if necessary. I believe a cursory review of the Article 10, Section 47 will confirm my opinion that the commission and the governor are in violation of the Constitution and the investigative rules of this commission as required when a formal complaint is filed. 16.2, 16.3, and 16.5b are not being followed. After a preliminary investigative report backed by T. Taylor Townsend dated April 12, 2016, which addressed very similar allegations, the governor was quick to ask for and receive the resignations of 3 general appointees. As of this date, 9 months later, the governor has failed to either exonerate, and I use that term strongly, exonerate, or call for a public hearing for his appointees as required by Article 10, Section 47. I can only assume that the governor's honor code does not apply in an election year. I would ask you as commissioners, should I, as a private citizen, have to file a writ of mandamus, or should this commission request a resolution from the governor? And if I would be a commissioner that had allegations against me, I would want the governor to resolve that in accordance with the Constitution and exonerate me. And I thank y'all very much for hearing me. Any questions?
The only comment, Mr. Meehan, we appreciate you speaking, is I think the commission has fulfilled its obligation. It did respond. Despite you saying we didn't respond, we responded in the manner that's provided by law. We submitted what needed to be submitted to the appropriate places. But I'm not going to get into into a political speech about it, but, I mean, we've done what we need to do.
Well, would y'all, could I ask you to please review 16.3 and 16.5B, and the commission can only do its part when the governor has done his part. And I think this commission is important enough. I may be wrong, but I think the board, the gaming board, the governor has 10 days to make a decision if there's a complaint against a commissioner. I may be wrong in that, but you would think that the governor would come forward and exonerate. And your rules require a written notice of the commission's action shall be given to the complainant. I haven't received that. That's under 16.5B. Under 16.3, well, I would just ask that that be reviewed and see if that's not, but would it be so extraordinary for you as commissioners to ask the governor for a resolution?
You're making a request, which obviously we will have to consider, but the matter was responded to previously, as you pointed out, by us, to do what we can do in the situation.
Well, it seems that in many times what we do, we just let things fade away without a policy procedure being followed. And I think that's unfortunate in our government. And that's my argument. I rest. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Having received no additional requests to address the commission, we'll move to item number 8, which is the director.
Good morning, Commissioners. Briefly on my director's report, and behind tab 6 in your binders, I want to call your attention to the expenditures of the commission since July.
Are these documents publicly available as well? If upon request?
Yeah, upon request. And then their information is provided on the Boards and Commissions website as well. If you have no questions regarding the expenditures, the only other item I had was to advise that we did enter into the agreement with Proctor U, the online cadet applicant testing that we were, web-based applicant testing, which is what we discussed last meeting. We're working with their implementation team to receive training for our staff to go forward with that. We've done our part as far as making all of the cadet exam versions electronic so that it can be used on the web-based platform. And so we're eagerly awaiting the launch of that, and we're continuing to test and to make sure that everything's working properly. And we actually have 2 individuals in queue already that are eager to participate from out of state. They're asking for this option. And so as we identify those that are out of state applicants, we're making note of them so that we can offer this to them as a way to save costs on travel back and forth to Louisiana for the application process. So that was my only update.
And as I understand, it also provides increased opportunity for people who might not be in a position, cost aside, to travel here.
Correct. It will provide an opportunity for individuals locally that scheduling conflicts with regards to the current testing schedule would allow them to test as well. So it offers an opportunity.
What's the timetable for implementing it and putting it where it'll be up and running?
Right now, we are merely waiting for the Proctor U personnel to bring us online. They are bringing other organizations online with their implementation rollout. And so we're waiting for their team to have the opportunity to provide the training to us. I'm going to follow up with them after this meeting to see. My last conversation with them was on Friday. So I want to follow up to see if before the next meeting, we have our training, we've run our testing, our piloting of the software, and we're comfortable to then launch. And so what we're going to do is the individuals that have made a point of reaching out to us saying they're interested in anything that they could do to take it online or web-based, we're going to reach out to them first. And once we're comfortable that we have a satisfactory run with that service, then we'll we'll open up and really publish it quietly. So, I'm anticipating having testers have taken this before we need next.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of the applicants, the state police who's have difficulty filling a lot of positions that will become available. And to increase our applicant pool, this is definitely going to help. So I know it's a large undertaking. It's taken a lot of meetings, a lot of coordination. So thank you for your efforts.
I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Hammond. This is something that, going back to 2016, to more streamline, more, less intrusive on people out of town, out of state, current military personnel that can't leave where they are, but are trying to make the next steps and plans for their lives. This is something since 16 that we've been talking about. So thank you for seeing it through for us, because it's, I think this is one of the many positive steps for the testing being brought into the 21st century that we really need to have. So thank you.
That concludes your report. I think that takes us to the end of the agenda, and so we entertain a motion.
One thing real quick, if I could.
Sure.
Going back to 2016, Mr. Miette spoke to us one time and wanted to bring to our attention, he had talked about this book, Murder on the Bayou, and he had encouraged us to read it because it talked about stuff that's going on in Louisiana and the potential for police corruption and how it grows and mushrooms. And I bought the book, I read the book, I think I handed it off to you. By the way, I never got my book back. But
I'm a slow reader.
Anyway, it was just brought to my attention by Mr. Hanneman and Mr. Miette that Showtime has now made that into a 5-part series starting on Friday. So the book was very informative. I would suggest to y'all, if you can, set your DVRs and watch it. From what Mr. Miette said, that it's going to go into a lot more detail than the book did, and it's a very interesting, and it's right here in our own backyard. So I'd encourage all of y'all to watch that, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you for bringing it up.
HBO.
Showtime.
Showtime.
So with that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.